Evening again. This is our next webinar in the series of webinars what we have. So this is about cybersecurity. It's primarily a safe usage of social media and internet. This is organized by Transcat People Solutions Private Limited, Rotary Bangalore Sneha, and Merit Matters Academy and HR Services Private Limited. Good evening. Thank you for logging into this webinar session on cybersecurity, a safe usage of social media and internet. I'm Vinod Nayak, your senior consultant at Transcat People Solutions Private Limited, and your host for today. Requesting you all to keep your mics on silent. This session will be for 60 minutes. Question and answers will be after the presentation. You're requested to type in your questions in the chat box. We shall address them in the Q&A session. Thank you for your cooperation. This session is our sixth one in the series of webinars hosted by Transcat and Sneha. All our previous webinars were well received by participants. They have been uploaded onto our website and also on our YouTube channel. I shall be sharing the link at the end of this session. Transcat People Solutions Private Limited, as you already know, this session is being hosted by Transcat and Rotary Bangalore Sneha. Transcat is a pan-India management consulting company, one of the most sought-after catalysts for change. They transform people and organizations to excel in their field. Many consultants have worked with companies in US, Europe, Middle East, and other regions. They are recipients of various awards and recognitions. 3 consultants are Guinness Book of World Record holders in the largest will-building activity of Firewalk. So this was primarily a pre-COVID activity. This was primarily organized for changing the mindset of thousands of employees for an organization in India. We are a group of people with right mix of knowledge, competency, experience, and attitude to contribute to our clients' success. Our vision is primarily to become one of the most sought-after catalysts for change and in turn transform people and organizations to exceed their expectations. A quick rundown on our services. We are a strategic human resource diagnostic company. We do advisory, digital learning and development, outbound training, skill building activities, willingness building, instructional design, behavioral assessment, psychometric assessment, competency frameworks, coaching, mentoring, employee surveys, performance management system, organization development, employee engagement, HR outsourcing, business reengineering, social and ethical compliance, implementations, mobile app-based learning and evaluation, mobile app-based feedback and return on investment tracking, corporate videos, and CSR implementations. Rotary Bangalore Sneha is a part of Rotary International District 3190. Rotarian Dr. S. Nithilila is the current president. This club has been very active during these testing times of COVID-19. The president herself has volunteered on numerous occasions and distributed food and grocery supplies to laborers and people around few pockets of Bangalore South. Merit Matters. This is an organization committed for excellence in HR processes and systems with industry-oriented Campus Connect programs, focused on development of talent for the future, building organizations of high performance, creating robust HR processes and policies for sustained growth and development. The company is promoted by Mr. M. Jebakumar. He's a senior HR professional with 30 plus years of experience, and the company is called Merit Matters Academy. Coming to today's session, our thought leader for today is Mr. Sebastian MS. Mr. Sebastian MS is the former director of Deloitte India. He is an Access Data Certified Examiner, Certified Fraud Examiner, Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator, and a Master Trainer for Interpol on Technology Crime Investigations. He has over 17 years of professional experience in the field of fraud investigations and fraud control. This includes nearly 10 years with the CBI, that is Central Bureau of Investigation, and 2 years with the GMR Group. He has led over a number of investigations involving bribery and corruption. He set up with the first digital forensic and technology labs for the CBI, GMR Group, and Deloitte in India. He was instrumental in identifying and extracting relevant evidences in many high-profile cases. Mr. Sebastian is also associated with International Center for Missing and Exploited Children and UNICEF India for law enforcement training on investigation of computer facilitated crimes against children. He also developed and led multiple training programs around technology investigations for the investigators of Central and State and Interpol member countries of Asia Pacific. He's an MS in cyber law and cybersecurity and a qualified aircraft maintenance engineer. He also served with the Indian Air Force for 20 years prior to joining CBI. I shall hand over the controls to Mr. Sebastian. Welcome, Mr. Sebastian, and over to you.
Thank you. Let me select for my.
Yes.
Trust you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for joining this session. And my heartfelt thanks to the group, Mr. Jeb Kumar and others in the group for helping me present this session for the day. So the agenda for the day, this is, while I know most of the participants in this group are adults, I am mostly concentrating on some of the issues that are impacting your children. So how to protect them is one of the part of these sessions today. And also we'll cover a lot involving technology crimes, modus operandi of different criminals and different methodologies used by them, and towards the end, strategies for protection. So to start with, very, very brief introduction about internet. I know almost everyone have been using internet for quite some time. So if I have to tell what is internet, it's a collection of interconnected network of computer networks. The moment your computing device gets connected to the internet, it forms part of multiple redundant data paths that facilitate movement of data between any computer in the internet. It is capable of high-speed communication, overcoming all barriers of distance and time. Using a computer, you can communicate with a person in another continent as if he's sitting right before you. And as every piece of communication is encoded in ASCII using binary systems of zeros and one, for it, language is not a matter. It can easily communicate with other computers in different operating systems and in different languages spoken by human beings. Now, coming to the security concerns. Now, as you connect to the internet, 2-3 important points that I want to mention is that data moves both ways. And many a times, you may not know even what are the things going out of your computer while you will be busy looking for the data coming into your computer. Every piece of communication, whether it is going from your computer or coming into the computer, gets split into different data packets and start its journey towards the computer where the data has to be pushed to. Each data packet might take different paths and different destinations. Upon arrival at the destination, it combines and forms. This is what basically how the data moves. Now, two important aspects. The first one already I told, that is the data moves without your knowledge. And second thing, internet is insecure by design. So the development of internet was during Cold War era. The US and then USSR was doing all possible research for military superiority in the fields of communication. Both countries were nuclear power, and USSR had the advantage of vacuum tube based transistor communication system, which was immune to nuclear attacks. And this really worried US. And they wanted to have a communication system which, if it cannot overcome, or maybe if it cannot be superior to that of Russians, but at least it can match with that. That was the main purpose or thought process behind the development of internet. So at that time, establishing connectivity was the main aspect of the research part. Security was never thought of. So because it is the very internet was developed in such a technological issue where security was not even thought of at the development stage. The issues continue, and it is using these loophole that many criminals make advantage and try to do different crimes on the net. While a lot of crimes are targeted against adults, there are a lot many of these things which is targeted at children. This is one of the most important concern that I want to share here. They freely operate on the net. While internet did not create criminals, it opened up a new and easy to operate tool to facilitate their nefarious intention. And they are able to do all these activities without coming out of their homes. And one of the things I just wanted to mention here is, like, most of the crimes is using a methodology called social engineering, which we'll be covering subsequently later. But I advise all of you, like, if you want to read a copy of Art of Deception, which is written by Kevin Mitnick. He was a world-renowned, I'll not say world-renowned, he was a notorious hacker before he becomes a law enforcement agent in the US. So this book gives a lot of very simple day-to-day tricks that he used as a hacker for hacking into different people's accounts or other activities that he wanted to do, wanted to make others do through his social engineering tricks. Now, one of the things that I just wanted to add, like, this is mainly for your children or youngsters. They do a lot of chatting or use of internet, and they'll be also connecting with a lot of friends which they assume they are friends. And many times when I ask them, when I go for school programs, etc., like, are you sure about the person with whom you're connecting or you're chatting with is the same person? So 99% they say yes. Then I explained them, like, you cannot be sure about the identity at the other end. It could be anyone, it could be a morphed image, or it may be even a morphed video. You cannot be sure about the identity on the other end. Each machine on the network has a unique identification number called Internet Protocol address. And ultimately, the other end, if you do any computer investigation, most probably what you're going to get is this IP address. But it may be many times challenging to identify who was this person sitting behind the keyboard and operating. And criminals do so many other anonymizing methodologies to help to create problems for the investigations, and thereby ultimately pose difficulties in identifying criminals. There are a lot of criminal activities on the net. As I told, these initial slides I am covering mostly targeted towards children. Children are used for different purposes, and one of the most sought after thing that anytime is a big commercial hit is child pornography. They try to identify people. When I say identify people, youngsters, and those criminals could be on any network of any age or sex. They're very good in grooming and identifying the children that they think are their potential victims. And they do whatever they want to reach to that child and then make him comfortable and ultimately make him do what they want. The purpose ultimately for which they are doing all this is ranging from trafficking, bonded labor, sexual abuse, and even organ transplant. I'll come with a case study immediately after this. And before that, I just wanted to tell some of the warning signs which you all must try and warn your children warn your children that in case they come across any such warning signs, they should talk to you or maybe to their teacher or an adult they trust. Generally, they expose youngsters with things inappropriate to age. They try to arouse the curiosity about sex, especially about the age group from about 8 to 9 onwards. They entice them with care and gift which they may not be getting from their home or from their near ones. And they make them feel indebted and try to make them to do things inappropriate. They capture the evidence of the things, and then subsequently they try to isolate from their family, and using blackmail or threatening, they try to take out the child from the comfort or security of their home. One brief case study. This happened in Mumbai. One day, immediately after the class hours, somewhere around 3 o'clock. So class used to be getting over around 2:30. One child attempted suicide in one of the school. It was 7th grader. And luckily for the child, there was a peon nearby and in the adjacent classroom. Hearing the commotion, he rushed into the room and found the child hanging from the windows. And before any harm could occur, he could take the child out of the clutches. And it took almost 2-3 days for the principal and some of the other seniors, including a psychologist, to make this child talk. What happened was something very, very disturbing. This child of 7th grade lost her mother about 3 months earlier, earlier to this incident. Her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and because of that only she expired. She was the only child, and her father, a corporate employee, used to take care a lot. He only used to drop the child in the morning in the school. But because he's working in a corporate, it was not possible for him to come and pick up the child around 3 p.m. every day. So he engaged an auto rickshaw and engaged an ayah at home. This ayah used to come maybe before 3:30 before the child comes home, and she used to prepare food and things like that. And it continued. And this father only introduced the child to Facebook, one of the social networking sites, very popular. And he connected her to some of his relatives who are cousins of this child. And as she started using this site, sometimes used to till the time the father comes, maybe 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, etc. So she used to start getting some invitation or some connection. She herself used to search who are all over in the net, etc. And one day she got an invitation from a Didi who was an earlier student or an ex-student of the same school. She immediately, because she was very young, very, very difficult for her to think of anything bad on the net, etc. She accepted the invitation and started chatting, talking. And one of the things that immediately came here was like she too, or the Didi too, was of similar issues. She too had similar issues. Her mother too expired of breast cancer. So during the chat, she one day communicated that we having same history or background of mother's death due to breast cancer, we should be regularly doing a manual examination for any such issues so that we can detect it at very, very early stage. The child didn't know how to do it, etc. So the child was asked to switch on the webcam and remove the upper clothes. And then from the other side, instructions were given how to check for it, etc. And that day the issue closed. Whereas the next day, in the evening when the ayah went, and before her father came, there was a knock at the door, and she opened the door. It was an uncle from the nearby house, and he had a photograph of her without any upper clothes. And before she could come out of the shock of seeing that photograph, he tried to kiss her, and then what happened was that she shouted, and somehow that day that person went out. Just before going, she told, like, whatever it may happen, if you tell this to anyone, I will ensure that your father is no more. So this was actually even subsequently also 1 or 2 days, something or the other way, this issue was there. And because of this only, the child got into a depression and attempted suicide. So while introducing the children to Facebook or any other social networking, it is fine. But the thing is that there has to be a proper awareness building campaign, or things like what are some of the security issues that can come up, how to add a friend, or the concept like don't talk to strangers, etc. has to be brought in at the very, very early stage itself. Children post so many things on the net, and some of them could be very, very interesting for pedophiles, especially if they wanted to target that child. Children generally post the information about themselves on the net. backgrounds that reveal identifying information, like maybe child has taken a selfie in front of the school and has posted it on the net. So it's very easy for a criminal to locate which is that sorry for that technical glitch. Yeah. So if a child posts a photo of or selfie of hers before the school, might be it's very, very easy for a person who's trying to locate for the whereabouts of this child. It is very, very easy for him to locate that. Or these days, it is very easy to find out with the help of GPS information, what is the geographical coordinates, where is that location. Or some are very, very keen to get photographs with sexually provocative poses. When I say sexually provocative, maybe a too much of skin, or some parents have the habit of dressing up children as if the child is a bit aged, etc. Maybe they are using it for some school competitions, things like that, and all, maybe a drama or things like that. But it should not be posted on the net so that it gets undue attraction from some criminals. I wanted to start with another brief thing. Like, you also should tell the children from the very early stages that whatever you are going to be posting on the net is going to be there for quite some time. And some of the things that is posted out of ignorance, etc., could come and haunt them later in the later stage of life. So very brief, another case study about social profiling. This is interestingly about one of my a child in my relation. He was a very, very, very bright child from IIT Delhi. He was a gold medalist in definitely. So he was picked up by Amex, etc. He worked in the UK for about 3 years. Then, because he was the only child of his parents, and almost every day evening when he used to call his mother, she used to cry. And then he thought of switching over to India. He came to the city of Bangalore and he applied for a position in one of the good companies over there. He forwarded his CV and job description to me, and then after having a look at JD and the CV, I knew that this child has to be picked up. But then this child was not picked up, and though I knew the HR lead, I did not ask him, or I did not even recommend him, because initially I thought I did not even have a word with him because the child is so much a good CV. However, after some time I happened to have a meeting with him. Then I asked him what's the issue. Then he told me that his social profiling is very bad. That company incidentally had a method of identifying people, or something like a mapping of creating a social profiling and mapping it to the job requirements. This particular person had liked many things which probably should not be liked in an ordinary case. But maybe when your friend is posting something, you would love to please him and love to post, yes, liked it, or maybe even commented in a favorable manner. And such things. Maybe he commented adversely on a political party or a particular religious activity, etc. So what actually happened is that you have a lot of social profiling services that is available. What they do is, they, using some of the robots, they connect these patterns, target's profile, and then try and pick up all the data that is posted by this particular target in last maybe 5 years, 10 years, etc., depending upon the requirement of a person who is seeking the social profiling. At the end of it, it is going to a analytical engine which do a lot of research activities on the information gathered, maybe political analysis, religious analysis, emotional analysis, intellect analysis. You tell them whatever is an analysis, it is all there, and they come out with maybe a 100+ page report with a lot of chart and graphs, and towards the end it will saying ask what his social profiling is saying about him, and maybe whether that is matching with the job descriptions or not. So while that social profiling might be intelligent enough on some of the aspects, it may not be considering the things like whether this person has really applied his mind or not. But ultimately, the challenge is that whatever you are posting is going to be seen by someone, and you are going to be analyzed, and you are going to be organized into a particular stream of bucket, or what is the characteristics of that person's, or etc. So it could really come into a very, very difficult stage in the later stages of life. So maybe you can always tell your youngsters, like there is something like this social profiling, and anything that you are going to post on the net is going to be there for quite some time, and maybe it is going to haunt you in future. Again, to the children, there are activities like they generally start talking with someone online, and maybe they get to an offline meeting, etc. subsequently later. And quickly coming to a case study of an online dating. Why I'm coming to all these things are like most of these are directly handled by me, and I understand some of the challenges. While I'm not able to tell you everything in very detail, but maybe these studies, these case studies give you a lot of background on whole thing, how a criminal is going to abuse someone. So here I'm just going to name this particular boy. He's a 11th standard student in Delhi, in another metropolitan city, from a very rich family. And this is the incident of somewhere in 2007. And that time he used to have a pocket money of 15 to 20,000 rupees every month. So you can imagine he's from a very rich family. And his friend circles were again equally rich persons. But then he used to have a lot of friends even from the other side also. And one of the things that I could see in his profile was that his friends used to tease him for not having a girlfriend. Somehow he was a bit shy, maybe that's the reason. Otherwise, those who are in Delhi should not have been so much of shy. And he was always teased for not having a girlfriend. One day, that's the background. One day, this boy told his mother, and before that, I'll have to tell one more incident. One day, he is getting an email having an invitation from a dating app with a photograph of a good-looking girl, saying that why don't you? I would love to have a dating with you. If you are interested, why don't you come and meet me in Dehradun at so and so place on so and so date and time? This boy was so happy and eager. Like first of all, the girl is very good looking. Number two, no girl ever said to him earlier, and he was unable to say it like this to anyone. So what he told us lie to his mother at home, saying that from the school we are going for a quiz competition to Dehradun, and he will go that day night, and next day is which was actually a Saturday and holiday for the school, is the quiz competition, and by evening they will all start back from Dehradun, and Sunday morning they will come back. So mother, as like most mothers, he gave another 5,000 rupees to him, and saying that just keep it in case there is a requirement, you use it, otherwise come back and give to me. And she put one condition that every hourly he should give her a call or maybe at least a message. And she herself dropped this child at ISBT, and he saw her getting into a bus. And then when she asked, because she didn't find any of his friends or any teachers, etc., they told they are all boarding from the nearby stops and things like that. Anyhow, she did not had anything to doubt her son, so continued. And she got messages till about 10 p.m. And next day morning, from around 7 a.m., she started waiting for the message or call from son. No message, no call. So around 8 o'clock, she called this phone. So no response, not even ringing. Then she thought maybe his phone would have run out of battery. And till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, no call, no message. So she was a bit upset, and she called up her husband and told, like, there is no message from Rahul. I am not able to get through to him. And he told, why don't you call up the school, and maybe they will have the phone number of the teacher who is accompanying, or maybe even others, someone who is accompanying. So she called up the school, then she realized that Rahul was telling a lie. So she was a bit afraid, no call, no message. So she had one relative in Dehradun. He was actually a police constable. What she did was immediately called up that person and checked whether the boy came there or not. And they too had that constable too had a son of almost similar age. So checked with him whether he called that son or not. So nothing of that message she received. And by evening, on the pressures of this mother, there was a police complaint given in Delhi as well as in Dehradun. And that Saturday passed like that. Sunday also passed like that. And Monday morning, the police constable got a call from the local control room in Dehradun saying that there is one body kept in the mortuary of one of the hospitals, and your description about missing child is approximately looking like this. Do you want to come and have a look at it? This constable went over there and identified the body. It was of Rahul's only. And the postmortem report was the one which was really intriguing. Thing is that there was no internal organ in his body. Everything was removed, including kidneys, liver, heart, everything. So investigation was quite long, almost 4.5 months long investigation, and then ultimately it was closed for want of very detailed some of the other evidences. This child was picked up from Dehradun by someone, and he was probably operated in a moving ambulance. And all those email that came, which we came to know later, that came from a neighboring country, one of the server maintained by neighboring countries, and it subsequently was somewhere identified that this particular male had connection with an international gang operating in human parts, and that was it ultimately went into. So maybe it's a simple email, etc. Children are very can be very easily tricked. They believe everything, may not even tell you the whole truth. So it is always our responsibility to see that children are guided properly, and if parents are unable to, maybe suitable guidelines and instructions are given from schools or maybe expert groups, etc. Because a lot of such issues are happening. You might know that from India, earlier only street kids used to be going missing, but these days it is not. There are many children getting missing because even picking up street children, it has become very difficult these days, whereas internet has given a good facility for identifying potential victims on the net and then help criminals approach those people from their own comfort of their homes and then ensure that such children walk into their traps wherever they are called. We'll get into some of the technology abuses by children. Cyberbullying is one. A lot of children engaged into it, and one of the challenges with this is that it is a punishable offense by IT Act. Big fine is there, and it creates a lot of problem for the bullied people. And if your child is one victim of bullying, please tell him not to respond, but talk to you. And also at the same time, do not delete the evidences of bullying, so that when you go and give a police complaint, if you decide to go for a police complaint, you should have some or other evidence, and then subsequently the law enforcement can take action. But at the same time, you should tell your children that never be a bully, because it creates a lot of problem for others. It has unlike conventional bullying, it spreads faster, create a lot of problem, push so many people into depression and things like that, and a severe punishment provision, including heavy penalty provisions in IT Act. Sexting is the next issue that many teenagers and youngsters are getting into. I normally get something like a support for investigating into sexting at least once in a week. And most of the time, the victims are girl children. They somehow wanted to maybe please or impress a crush and share a photograph, which subsequently become an issue. While she may not even think that his or her boyfriend will ever share it. Even I have come across incidents like a mobile phone is lost, or somebody has sent it for repair. There was some other issue, etc., with the phone, and he left it somewhere, and maybe one of his friends could open it. So all these are subsequently big issues, and ultimately it becomes a big humiliation. There could be like issues like there are so many other issues that could associated, maybe in school, suspension from academics, legal actions, so many things are there. So it's always good to update your children about some of the challenges that is coming out of sexting. And most important thing, like it is considered as pornography. And while you can have pornography in your mobile phones or in your laptops, etc., having pornography is not a punishable offense. But the moment it is transmitted, it becomes a punishable offense. and you have no bail. Other major concerns that children are engaged in are like creating fake profiles and sending spoofing emails, different anonymizers they use and send maybe threatening email. They all get into different groups basically, and using torrents they get into illegal downloads. Many movies that may not be even released in India, children using torrents they download and view it. Maybe like if there is a complaint coming from such movie producers, your child could end up into trouble, and equally you. So it's very, very important to see that your children are not getting into. The biggest challenge yet is that the moment they get into all these like anonymizers, torrents, etc., there is a chance that your child could become part of criminal gangs who will entice and encourage your children to do some illegal activities, and they will try to initiate these by these children, and ultimately while these criminals reap all the benefits of it, all investigation will point to the initial action by these children, and they could be the attraction of law enforcement. Coming to one or two other things like free, like everyone is so happy the moment when someone say buy one get one free, etc. onwards. So many things free. It includes like pirated software, cracked software, torrents, illegal downloads, or whatever it may be. But the biggest challenge with anything free is that your computer will become a storehouse of trojans and malware, because all these pirated or cracked software, like I have seen many times in the streets of Delhi or Mumbai, like this season when you can find pineapple or mango being sold. That way, the similar way, you can find CDs being sold. A CD containing millions of rupees worth software is costing only 10 rupees. A blank CD may not even come at 10 rupees, but you will get these CDs for 10 rupees. And considering that you have an engineering student, or maybe you yourself wanted some of the software, you will buy it, and the moment you install it, one of the biggest challenges is that these software have the capability to make your systems insecure, and subsequently from your systems many criminals will have access to your system, and they will be able to initiate many criminal actions. I'll tell you one case study very, very briefly. This is some of the things, like these days very rarely someone go to mall because most of the malls are open, but think of maybe an year back, especially in the month of April to May, when you visit a mall, a lot of young children come near you as you enter. They will say, uncle, auntie, bhaiya, didi, today one iPhone is to be given on lottery, please fill this form and submit it. And the moment anything is free, we love to fill that, whatever it may be. In case like then we don't even think of our what you call, some of us may not even think, like if somebody has to give a thing in lottery, what is required might be maybe first name, last name, email address, and a mobile number. But the form has asked for anything and everything, entire Janam Kuntali of yours, including what is there at your home, is the micro oven is there or not, what is the car, if it is a four-wheeler, what's the car number, your date of birth, the anniversary date, children's date of birth, their name, etc. These children are not part of any criminal network. They are again given another element of greed. Like for a completely filled form, they will get something like 2 rupees to 5 rupees. And these children also have been told, like, unless everything is filled completely, you will not get money. So when you return it, they will have a quick scan and tell, hey, bhaiya, this your date of birth is not filled, so please fill it. So you will think, why say, let me try. After all, it is free, so let me try. You fill everything and keep it. These forms get into the hands of another set of children for digitizing into Excel or Access. And ultimately, that will be picked up by the criminals, and it will be run into a program called biographic password generator. Why? Because almost 90% of the people, maybe except some very good computer security experts and others who have a good training, they use the password that they use would be related to biography. Somebody might be using their anniversary date, school's name, year of pass out, onwards. Like there is a combination of so many things. Now, what this particular software does with the biographical information that you have given is, it picks up about 20 potential password of yours, and almost in 70% of the cases, it will be one of the first 20 passwords, because we all try to use biographical information as password. Anyway, I'm coming in the subsequent slides. There is a methodology how to create a strong password that is coming up into this. But then wanted to say that the element of greed has to be controlled, especially on the net. Most of the Nigerian frauds or social engineering frauds, etc., are actually victimizing you by making use of the element of greed in human beings. No one is going to give anything free to you. So please always be careful that you are careful about your anything getting free. You also have a lot of devices with you, like maybe mobile phone, computers, everything, which contains a lot of information about you. And even when I advise you, like you dispose of your old device, or even when you send it for repairing your currently being used device, etc., what you have to see that like you have no sensitive information on the net. It could be very easily picked up and it could be abused very easily by downloading, or otherwise your computing devices could be full of trojans. Your smartphones and even smart TVs are becoming target of attack by criminals. And in the days to come, one of the bigger challenges now being identified is even medical implants. I think some days back, maybe about 4 years back, that was the first incident reported, like somebody hacked into a pacemaker of a heart, and that person was asked to give a good money as a ransom, failing which he will stop the pacemaker and this person will die. So it is as old as that. I will also show you some of the screenshots or newspaper clippings, like saying that your smart TV, we are all happy to buy a smart TV, but then there has already been incident of as old as 2017 or 16, where smart TVs were switched on remotely, and somebody has picked up images from your rooms where the TVs are there, or even the audios being picked up, etc. So think of, if your smart TV can be used for spying, why not your smartphone? This is another thing, like interesting news article, like L&T bags 100 million contract to pin down tax. How this is doing? Like basically your movement, your photographs, GPS information where you have traveled, everything can be used for analyzing what is your activity, and they are able to tell like approximate expenditures or where all you have traveled. If you have traveled and taken a photograph from Bangkok, maybe like they know that from the GPS information that this photograph was picked up from that one. What is your type of device, because they tell whether you are using an iPhone of 1 lakh plus, or you are using a simple feature less phone of maybe 2000 rupees, etc. Everything is possible to be identified from the photographs that you are going to post on the net, etc. And one interesting graphics I thought of sharing with you, like the person is about to die and doctor is saying that I have got a good news and bad news, and the bad news is that you have only 2 days to live, whereas the good news is that he accidentally posted the entire medical record online and which will live forever. So what I want to say was that whatever you are posting on the net, unless you are the administrator of that server, you will never be able to delete it. Some of the other threats and crimes that are coming over here, like mainly virus, swarms, trojans, etc. These are all some of the basic things. But the difficult things about trojans and malware is that these things could make your computer a zombie or something like a slave computer, and subsequently make your computers could be used by criminals operating in darknet, etc., and initiate attacks from your computers. So when you are downloading anything, be very, very careful. You could become a part of bots or zombie networks. It is not that zombie which children used to play games. It is telling about criminal networks. So I can give an example. Like in olden days, a person's wealth was known by the number of cattle that he had. So in the current days, a black hacker or a criminal in the internet terms is known by the number of computer that he is holding control with. Maybe yours and mine are already part of zombie network. And when you visit maybe someone who is having law enforcement background in this group, or somebody who is ardent researcher and visited the the darknet, etc., they will come to know. Like you will many times come to know that somebody putting a post, I have about 1 million zombie computers available. If anyone want, I can give it on rent for attacking for 2 days. It is at say maybe $2 per computer, things like that. So while you have paid money for your computer, you are powering it on, you are connecting with 24/7 internet, etc., somebody else is making money out of it because you have not been careful to ensure that your computer is safe. We will quickly cover some of the zombie related things we already just covered. I'll just come with one case study. This is about a 19-year-old student from Kerala. Somewhere in 2006, then President of India, Sri Abdul Kalamji, was to visit Kerala. And the previous day, Kerala Police, IB, CBI, President's Palace, Prime Minister's Office, all of them received an email saying that the president will be assassinated in Kerala next day. The police swung into action, and within about 4 hours, Kerala police arrested a boy from his college. He was brought to his house, and then he was asked to open his desktop, and from there in the outbox they could pick up a mail, and even from the temporary files probably they have identified the mail written, that is the threatening mail written. Because this particular attack was against President of India, the Kerala police do not have the investigation rights, or instead they handed over this to CBI, and which came for investigation at CBI level, and I started looking into it. After 3-4 days investigation, it was realized that this boy had actually not sent it. So to go to that level of investigation, you need extraordinary, means very, very high skills, or maybe something like 3rd level or 4th level type of investigation, which takes a lot of time, effort, and tools to get into that. So very briefly, what I want to say was that this boy was innocent. What was his mistake was that he used to be a prolific downloader using different tools, that before going every day to his college in the morning, he used to then keep a download manager, and he used to put for downloading about 10 to 15 tools, all free tools. And in the evening when he come back, the first thing what he normally used to look at was how many have completed download. Then he used to put those things into a CD writing, and one almirah was full of CDs with all those free programs, etc., in his house. So in the process, his computer was fully full of Trojans and zombies, and the IP address dialogues, or IP logs, etc. The examination of IP logs, etc., identified that one of our neighboring countries had got into and actually had sent this sent this email. So probably they wanted to know what is the response from our law enforcement side, and how are these investigations going to be, etc. Probably they wanted to know the skill sets and capabilities of law enforcement. But when in an ordinary case, when such an investigation comes, it may not even get into 2nd stage, forget 3rd stage or 4th stage investigation. And the interesting part in this particular case was that the boy agreed to sending this email because he was afraid of getting beaten up by police. So having an agreement, there is an evidence in the computer. No one is going to the 2nd stage or 3rd stage or 4th stage of investigation, and it could be becoming a big challenge. So always ensure that you or your family members do not download such things that contain a lot of Trojan, zombies, etc. There are a lot of other case studies I want to cover, but maybe something very briefly about 2 such things. On both these things, I had exposure to very, very recently. So one is in this COVID support. The first one, what I have mentioned over here. Again, very close to my home, one of my family relative, very poor person, and he got an email message, sorry, an SMS message initially about whether how is the COVID going on, and she is Sister Greta from Rome, and she has some money that she had collected from different sources, and she wanted to give it to some poor people in Kerala. And this person, being a very poor person himself, he opted for it. If you can give me, maybe I'll be very helpful. It will be very helpful to me. So he told, she got a message saying that she's sending some packed item. It will be coming to the, it will be delivered to you within maybe 3 to 4 days. And she also told that maybe there could be some customs clearance. This person will have to do it. So do it and get it cleared and pick it up. It is worth that. Then, as promised, as told, within about 3-4 days, he got a call from someone saying that that person is calling from customs in Delhi. And the message was that while scanning, they found some $5,000 in an envelope in one of the prayer book kept inside. And so, as a part of customs clearance, because this money is also involved, this person will have to deposit about 28,000 rupees or something. Now, if you calculate in Indian rupee terms, so $5,000 is working out to be a very good amount, something like almost 4 lakh rupees. And hence, this person somehow, what he did was he hypothecated his money, his wife's golden chain into a bank from a banker and collected this money and deposited this money in one of the bank accounts. And then he subsequently called up again saying that I have deposited this money, please release it, etc. Then that person told again something else and he wanted more money. And then this person came to one of the person known to me and they told probably there is some issue. Then while I tried to get track of this, it was submitted to an SBI account in Delhi. He deposited at 10 o'clock and by about 10:40 the money was shifted from that to another account and from there to another account, etc. So this is one thing about how these people operate and how convincingly they make the victims walk into their traps, and they always know whom to connect with and how to connect with, etc. The second one is about a very, very proactive relationship manager from a prominent private bank. So he got a call the 1 or 2 earlier saying that I am your relationship manager and anything is there, please let me know. So he told fine, and he saved this number also as relationship manager from so and so bank. And after 2 days, he got a call again from the relationship manager saying that, sir, are you in India or outside India? So this is just before that COVID lockdown. So he told, no, I am very much in India. No, your credit card was attempted to be used from a country outside India. So before clearing it, we blocked it temporarily, and we thought because you are not given any instructions, we thought of checking with you, and then before reactivating it. Then he told, okay, you can activate it, but I am not. I am within India only. Okay. So then they told like one pin will come. You please let me know so that we are very sure that this is a procedure being followed by bank to ensure that all transactions are secure. He agreed. So he got a OTP which he told them on the phone, and then told please hold on, one more OTP will come, second OTP and a third OTP. And he did not realize that with these 3 OTP, whatever money he had, almost 3 lakhs, 3 lakhs plus amount, everything was vanished from his account. That he is coming to know after subsequently after about an hour or something when he read the SMS messages. So actually what was happening was that these people, this person was not a relationship manager. He was part of, the caller was part of a criminal gang, and one of his team members was on the internet line doing some transactions, and the OTP was part of the transaction that was coming from the bank. So different social engineering methods, and how every day it is a human mind, they will find some or other techniques always to see that the criminals try and find some or other victims very easily. While we have many other case studies, we would love to maybe cover one thing more, and before getting into strategies for protection. Like these are all many, you will normally get so many good morning messages or some messages saying that please forward this message. You will be getting some $500 or it will be credited, etc. Most of these messages contain some or other Trojan. Ultimately, when you forward your
So one moment. This is Vinod. Hello.
You can unmute Sebastian so that he can complete, no?
He is not unmuted, sir. He's not muted.
Muted, it is showing.
So could you just
Somebody muted Mr. Sebastian.
yeah, one second. Just give me time. Sebastian sir, I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
Are you able to hear me now?
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Yes,
No,
yes.
it's okay.
Continue. We can go ahead, sir.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Now we are quickly getting into some of the important strategies for protection. While I have terrified you with a lot of things, there are very good strategies by which you can protect yourself. So maybe using a licensed software is one of the first and most important things about it. And along with most of the licensed software, you will get an antivirus, firewalls, etc. And it will also automatically update and patch as soon as you connect onto the internet. The second thing is about a password policy. So please listen carefully, this particular follow-up. If I ask you what is a good characteristic, what is the characteristics of a good password, you will all say that 10 to 12 characters, there could be normal letters and capital letters, numerals and special characters. But this combination of all these characteristics and not there any literal or name dictionary or not related to biography or not associated with you in any way could be very difficult to prepare. But what I'm going to show you is a simple, easy technique by which your password can be a good number of characters. It can have normal, capital, and numerals and special characters. So please see this example. Supposing that somebody asks me, what is your name, where do you live, and what are you doing for a living? So maybe my answer will be, I am Sebastian Edeseri. I live in Kochi. I work with Deloitte for past some years. And what I'm now trying to do is, I take the first characters of all these words in these three sentences. Like I am Sebastian Edeseri. I live in Kochi. I work with Deloitte for past 12 years. So I have picked up all these first characters of all these words. I am Sebastian Edeseri, full stop. I live in Kochi, full stop. I work with Deloitte for the past 12 years. That first character I have taken, again, full stop. Now, if you see this, it has got 20 letters, has small capitals, numerals, even special characters, full stop is there. Maybe someone want to make it still very strong. Maybe change one or two more special characters like A, I put it @ and dollar instead of Sebastian. So what you need to remember is which are the characters that you put changed into special characters additionally. And let me tell you, I first demonstrated this somewhere in 2005, I think, in one of the schools in Lucknow. And one child came with a 128 character password. And she wrote it repeatedly. And when I asked her, how did she do it? Then she told me that she is from a very pious Hindu family. And one of their presiding deity in their house is Hanumanji. And it was the Hanuman Chalisa's first characters that she has put over there. So same way, there could be so many things that could be very interesting to make a very strong password. Some of the songs that you may like, or maybe some of the dialogues in the movies that you would, in any language, and maybe a prayer that you make every day. All these could be forming basis for a very strong password. What you may have to do is just make one or two changes for special characters and remember it. Then isolation of networks, maybe like that is one of the important things, like when you at home, these days there may not be a house, especially in the urban areas, where there is no internet and wireless router. So when you are not in use, like a morning every day people are leaving for home, there is no one at home to use internet, etc. It is always good to shut it down. And even when you come back at home and see, like if your wireless routers are not password protected, ensure that it is nicely password protected. Otherwise, it has got a default password of admin in user ID is admin and password is admin, or user ID is password and password is also password, etc. These are all some of the default passwords given by the company. And most criminals, or like almost every criminal will know this is the password. They can come near your home, open a browser and type 192.168.1.1 and then get access to your routers, and then whatever want they can do it. So it becomes very, very easy for getting into your wireless routers. For your children, like another thing, mainly children are close to my heart, that they need to, when you are introducing them to the internet and create email IDs, create gender neutral email IDs. Like whenever I go to some schools and ask them for the email ID, etc., say they give something like alice2012@gmail.com. So two things have already been given out. One is Alice, which says that is her name, and Alice normally is a girl child, and 2012 is normally used as the year of birth. So maybe I suggest them like do something like a very, very funny or fantastic email address like butterscotch@gmail.com or peanuts@gmail.com. These are all some of the things you will not come to know what is the age or sex of the child and maybe the year of the child, etc. That itself is going to protect, because the moment you give out the name, year of birth and sex of the child, many other things could be easily picked up by someone. And download only from trustworthy sources. Never to allow and scan, because when you visit somewhere, somebody is asking you, oh, give me your identity proof. Don't give the original to be scanned and kept. Maybe you can give your photocopy and self-attest and give. How to self-attest, I'll just show you very quickly. And when you share any ID, maybe you give an ID which is having least risk component. When I say least risk component, I say maybe if you have an ID that is expiring next year, and if you have another ID which is expiring after 10 years, I think preferably you should the ID which is expiring next year to be shared in any case. Then all net bankings you must do only in a trusted environment. When I say trusted environment, your computer is licensed, antivirus, firewall, no unwanted software available, it is updated and is protected with a strong password. And in case you had to use a net banking from an untrusted environment, maybe you need to quickly come back to a trusted computer and change the credentials at the earliest. Credit cards, maybe if you have more than 3-4 credit cards, in one of the credit cards, you should have very low ceiling, maybe something like 15,000, 10,000, 5,000, depending upon how much you actually wanted to, and use only that credit card so that you are not exposing other credit cards. And no other minimal apps on the smartphones, because most of the apps, before installing, if you read the terms and conditions, you will realize that you are actually hypothecating yourself to that app, and you are trapped, you are literally spied upon almost everywhere. And look for yourself on the net, maybe for your children also, like what are the sensitive information available you have posted, someone else have posted. And this is the thing I was telling about how to submit a document somewhere, like the way I have written over here, submitted to so-and-so bank, so-and-so branch on so-and-so date for so-and-so purpose. So why I told this is that like many of the IDs that we submit sometimes got sold for criminals, and they make use of these forged to make forged IDs. And it is very easy to, like many people have enough photographs on social networking sites, so it is very easy to go and pick up a photograph from there. And a photograph, a studio will always very easily pick up a passport size photo and give. So in your or my name, there could be a lot of maybe even fonts that is running, and using that font, somebody might be using a email racket, or maybe a phone or a threading call racket, etc. And police identifying the phone number from where the call came, it will be ultimately yours or mine, and we may not have any connection. But then we will have very bad experience with police. Police also cannot do anything, because ultimately that was the record of using which different phone connections were taken. Then you should always have the IMEI and MAC numbers of your phones ready. IMEI number is the mobile equipment identity number. If you lose it when you go for giving a complaint, you should have it. Same way, if you lose your laptop, you should have a MAC number, so that these are all the unique identity numbers of your devices. On all social networking sites, etc., don't be happy with the default profile setting. By default, most of the profile settings are open to all. Unless you restrict it only to your friend circle or not even to anyone, that maybe it could be used. It could be open for abuses. And just think of, like, when you install an app, if it is asking for your contact list, photos, calendar, etc., just check whether you really need that app or not, because ultimately all these are very, very sensitive information, and do you want to share this information to that app? Research and locate information posted online about you and family. Maybe some good things are there, maybe some bad things also. Maybe you need to then give a complaint to police and get those bad things removed. Then very, very important thing, this one, like most of the emails or other such information, if you lose password, they offer a feature called reset password, and there will be some security questions. Say something like one of the things would be, what is your mother's maiden name? So most people who know me would also know my mother's maiden name. Or maybe, what is your favorite color? Most people will know me, will also understand what could be their favorite colors. Maybe what is the type of shirt I am wearing every day, or most of the times which is the color I am wearing. That could understand, that will help them realize that this is the color he might have put. So what I normally used to do, what is the color that you like most? Rather than putting a color, I will put something like butterscotch, or I will put something like ice cream, or what is your mother's maiden name? I may be putting something like lottery tickets. So even you are making it so much difficult for your friend circles to reset your password. So you be very careful about what you're going to be using as a reset password option. Remove metadata of your posts, like when you're posting it on the Facebook or any such social networking site. There are some tools which you can buy online, by which you can remove GPS information, etc. Otherwise, it is very easy to locate you from where did you pick up these photographs, and also which was the device that you used. Think before you click. Any link you should preferably avoid clicking, or you should always only typing, especially banking and financial transactions. It might be appearing to be as if it is coming from your bank, etc., but always make it a habit for typing, like www.sbi.com or whatever it may be, your bank's website. Never ever click on links. And also understand what are some of the sensitive information pertaining to you, and what is the difficulty if it becomes public, because anything that you post on the net could become public very, very quickly. And make a plan in case you lose your information of mobile, laptop, credit cards, digital signature token, etc. Do you have a backup in something like a file folder? Like, how many of you remember your credit card numbers? How many of you remember your mobile or laptop MAC numbers, IMEI numbers, etc.? Because unless you have a backup rather than in a digitized format, and which is the phone number on which you need to call, like credit card you lost, you may have your credit card calling company's number on your mobile. What if mobile also lost along with that? So unless you make it very quickly, your credit card could be abused. So all these information you should have somewhere handy. And do not make it easy for others to access your device. Change from general settings or default configuration to something complicated, and ensure that your systems are not vulnerable. It is always up to date. And last but not the least, many of you might be administrators of different social networking groups. So you are by rule or by law supposed to be making and general announcement, or you overseeing the people's post, etc. You need to make the purpose of this group known, and you also need to regularly tell them, like, this is the purpose, you cannot post this, you can only post this. Or if someone is posting maybe anything related to pornography, etc., like make it very, very clear that this is not permissible or not permissible, etc. in this group. But ultimately, for others' mistake, as an admin, you are responsible. And these are all some of the things that they need to ensure, that you know that everyone in the group, if you're an administrator of a group, you know each and every name and person, every person you know thoroughly, because in case police comes for asking for details, you'll have to give all these details very correctly. And You also ensure that many WhatsApp group administrators are arrested. I just picked up this maybe some days back just for checking admins of social networking arrested. So it gives a lot of information. In last year, it gives a lot of number. Quite good number of people are arrested just because their group members created something or posted something which was not in line with the law of the land. So 2-3 more important things in this. You can have what you call pornography or virus or malware in your phone. The moment you post it, it becomes illegal. And any such illegality within the group, you are by law supposed to be informing to police. And we are coming to end of this session, and we can now get into Q&A session. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, good evening. Hello. Vinod, I'm Nitya Lila, Dr. Nitya Lila here.
Yeah, please go ahead, madam. We can hear you.
Yes. Yeah, I just want to, I have few clarifications, or rather, I just wanted to make a few points.
Internet is on. This man is
Considering today's situation, today's scenario, most of us, or almost all of us, are pushed into the cyber world, and many of us are unaware of all these issues and schemes which is normally which is happened done with the cyber criminals. So I just wanted to make 2 points regarding this, sir. One, I feel that the cyber security setup of our government is little weak, or rather not well equipped dealing with such an enormous situation like now. Everybody is going online, and don't you feel that it should be more strengthened? That is number one. And number two is like NGOs and other voluntary organizations which normally work hand in hand with the government for other issues, other social issues. I feel that there should be some voluntary organizations in the cyber space also doing some work like helping the victims or other people who get into situations like some years back I have heard about a group called Cyber Angels in US. They used to roam in the cyberspace, and they used to thwart many hackings and help many people, many victims. I've heard about that group. Why don't you, people like you, start something like this? Because we cannot always, all of us are, many of us are not very, I can say, dealing with the situations. So, hello?
You'll have to unmute.
Summarizing your questions, like what you asked is, you have a feeling that security of government websites could be a challenging situation as per you. But let me tell you, probably government systems are much, much stronger. The problem is mostly lying with our user systems, and maybe what we need to do is, like, we need to help our own systems secure or maybe tightening it. I know there are many cyber security experts already in this group available hearing this presentation. So I will maybe not agree with your things like government websites or other things are not so strong. They are definitely strong. But then when you communicate with them, the servers of that, etc., while they remain strong, problem is like most of the time it is users machine which are having some or other issues, and it gets impacted also. But then they have a methodology to ensure that their server and such systems are mostly safe. Number two, making groups aware, etc. Like maybe there are already a lot of groups available. If you can go to, there are already been, government itself have given provisions like certain website, etc. You can go for asking support for your requirements. There are NGO groups, again, all no-profit groups giving support in different way. You give a search on the net, but then look for, don't believe everything. Even criminals have created website for supporting you. So maybe you need to get an expert advice, like which are all the one that can be right. And in India, there are so many such groups which are providing support for cybersecurity safety, maybe for a small token amount onwards to even free of cost. If you visit a certain website and you already, if you are an NGO and if you are having a site, etc., certain always helps you with additional methodologies or support for providing information about security expert who can do a hardening of your servers or other website, etc. It is always available.
Sir, can I ask a question, sir? My name is Satyanarayan.
Please go ahead, sir.
Sir, nowadays, after this COVID, what's happened is a lot of interactions are happening on a virtual platform, which is Zoom. There are a lot of talks going on saying that Zoom is not very safe. There are chances of being hacked by the neighboring countries. We are not having the right information. We are just going by whatever the media is saying, or what you call the rumors. So what is your suggestion about this, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, at least the information what I have is that while the default configuration of Zoom could be vulnerable, you can always make it strong. Like some of the methods used by the people are that every meeting is password protected. You don't allow anyone to join before the meeting starts, or even when the meeting starts, you allow people only with an invitation, or allow entry only on somebody knocking it, etc. So there are ways to make it strong, and I can see Zoom is one of the most sought after tool by even some of the very good corporates. So there is how much truth is there in the while in the discussions that is happening about security, because we are yet to hear from somebody doing an actual security audit of Zoom. We have not heard it, but then what I can understand is that like there are ways to make it strong.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. The question I asked you because across Rotary, we're all Rotarians. All the Rotary under 3190, we are using Zoom extensively for all the events. That's the only reason I was concerned about it.
Even we are using in a corporate level, sir, but then we are using all those protections basically to ensure that no one else is getting into it, and you are using your own corporate VPN before connecting into it. So there are so many protections that we are using it.
Amazing, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Vinod, any questions in the chat box?
Yeah,
no.
I have one question, Sebastian. Among these e-wallets, Paytm, Google Pay, and all that, which is very safe and secure?
Sir, e-wallets are most of them are very, very securely built, and they operate using multiple methods for confirmation. One, it is in your phone, first of all, or maybe in your web browser, or maybe other browser. And number two, an OTP is coming to your phone. So one of the ways to make it still stronger is that rather than putting it as a by default open, you open with a password. Rather than like many of the people, what I have seen is you lose your mobile phone and you have not even put a password for opening your phone, or not even a patent for opening it. So if someone gets into someone's hand, if they are able to open it, and then if they see, oh, your all these Paytm, Google Pay, everything is open, and then they may be able to transfer money. So maybe the security should be more at your level, enhancing your security, your mobile phone security. You should be doing it more, because most of these platforms, they ensure that they are reasonably or well secured, because as per the RBI guidelines, they are supposed to be doing a lot of things, and RBI do a regular audit of all these things before giving a license, even after giving a license, etc. And there is also like you need to regularly look for the messages or email that are coming, and in case you are getting a message that somebody transacted it, or you have transacted, you're getting a message that you have transacted maybe 500 rupees on to so and so. But if you have not done it, you have to report it immediately within the reporting window, rather than waiting for 1 or 2 days and our transaction to be allowed, closed, etc. So before the closure of the reporting time, you should report the concerned people. So that's the importance when I told in the earlier slide that you should have details of all these, including the number to be called or email address to be messaged, etc., separately, maybe in a small diary, so that in case you are stuck with any such issues, you are able to react without losing much time.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Venkatesh Murthy is asking a question whether Zoom is banned in India or not.
It is not banned. It is not banned.
Your
Incidentally,
response.
Zoom has two versions also. One paid version is also available.
Thank you.
And one free version. So paid version, you have a lot of options for setting. So maybe that's the one you should use, because I told anything free is likely for abuses.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Nothing on the chat box too, sir. I think we'll
It's 8:24 now.
Right.
Yes.
Anybody?
So thank you very much, Mr. Sebastian.
Yeah, there is a question that has come, how two-factor authentication works.
Yeah.
Yeah, two-factor authentication is one, you are putting a username and password. So you are getting the first level of authentication. Then the computer server sends out an OTP or maybe a such password or things like that, which is coming to your mobile phone. So the second one, when you send, the server is sure that okay, you are the same person and you are also having access to the mobile phone. But then at that time, if mobile phone is not directly under your control or you are threatened by someone itself, etc., that may not be possible. But that is the second factor of the authentication. How can we check if our mobile phone is compromised or hacked? So normally, earlier, if you remember, like if you have been using computers maybe about 10 years ago, if there is a virus in your computer, it used to misbehave. But these days, if there is a virus, it will very, very nicely behave. It will not misbehave because the virus never wanted to give an indication that there is a virus inside. Just like a spy only, it will be acting only when it is finding a suitable situation. Like when you are not using your keyboard, when you are away from your computer, etc. So same way in your mobile phone also, if it is if it is vulnerable or if it is being a target of someone, etc., you might have to send it to someone who is providing such service, maybe cybersecurity experts. But if you have a doubt and if you don't want to do it, the best way is to ensure that you do a factory reset. And then ensure that you remove all those, you don't install any app which you think could be compromising your machine. So if you say which is the app not compromising, I say almost all apps, because ultimately they all survive selling your information to people who are advertising. So it's a give and take basically. So if you want to use that service, either you pay money or you'll have to, or they will sell your information so that they can survive. So it is this way. Like think of Facebook. It is giving you so much of service, but if you say last year's profit of Facebook itself is crossing more than $10 million or something. So giving you everything free, how can they make so much of money? And that too when most of the people in Facebook get a salary which is probably the best in the world. And with all these, they are able to make so many millions of dollars in profit, then you can imagine that it is selling your information. Without selling, it cannot make profit.
Thank you. There is a question from Mrs. Shobha Murli. How about security in cloud infrastructure? Your response.
It depends upon what is the service level agreement between you and your cloud service provider. Like you have so many type of service available, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service, etc. And then what all things you are asking to put in control. You want a private cloud separately within that, or you want it to a combined, like you want to stay in a colony where everyone is staying, or you want to stay in an independent house. And then you want to put on your own security guard, or one security guard is common for everyone in the gated community. So it all depends upon what is the service level agreement between you and your service provider, and how much is the money that you pay and you demand from him, etc. So, like if you have a good security, you need to pay for it. If you don't want a good security, it will be free.
Okay. Okay, because nowadays that is becoming a challenge, no? The cloud infrastructure is very difficult to audit also.
Yeah, some of the companies are by default getting into some minimum security. Like say, for example, if you buy a car of 4 lakhs and above, you will by default get 2 what you call airbags. Whereas okay, it is something like that. The more you pay the money, the more you get the service.
True. Thank you. Yeah, got your point.
There is.
I have a question for Dr. James and Mr. Unikrishnan. Can I?
Yeah.
How did you manage to get such a wonderful presentation by Sebastian? It's so useful at this point of time. And I know we are all having a lot of doubts and we're not getting the authentic information. This is really amazing. Hats off to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. There is
Direct exposure or experience. I have been in this field from 2002. When I first set up the first forensic lab of the country, it was 2002. And after having some stint with Interpol, I realized that children are probably the biggest target. And that was the time in 2006-07. There were 2 other great souls. One Samir Dutt from Forensic Bureau. He continues to be still doing that work. And there is one Dr. PM Nair. He was an IPS officer. This me along with these 2 people had something like protecting children on the net. But that was the time many schools didn't want it. And just because I was a CBI person, the principal used to give me some time for listening. But these days, my calendars get filled almost maybe 1 year, 2 years in advance. And all what I'm talking is from my own experience and exposure.
Thank you. Thank you. There is one more question from Mrs. Satyam SJ. Good evening, sir. Recently, many youngsters are addicted to mobile game. How safe it is, sir? Your response.
Sir, any addiction, you need to treat them. And maybe you have a lot of specialists who are doing it, maybe from NGOs, etc. So one of the ways in which you need to take them out of this is to expose them to maybe more social interactions and maybe smaller connections with maybe a good doctors or medical professionals who can help on this line.
There is another question Dr. Sanjay Roy has asked. Please tell us the easiest way to use mobile banking, sir. Your response.
Yeah, you ensure that your mobile phone has no app other than the app of the typical bank that you want to. And ensure that it is an updated mobile, preferably if your finances permit, go for an iPhone. While even Android phones after version 8 are quite secure, but the safety of that phones depend upon how much unwanted app you have. Like if you have even one app which is not insecure, it could create problem for your mobile banking environment as well. So preferably use a direct app of the company or the bank concerned and use a phone which is secure. And your from company side or bank side, it is all generally very, very safe. But then I'll also want to tell you, like Steve Jobs, who is considered as the father of the secure computing. He was asked a question once that which is the most secure computer? Then he told the computer which is shut down and locked in my Almira. That is the most secure computer. So what I wanted to say was that like ultimately there is a possibility of the security or any technical or computing device getting vulnerable. But then one of the way in which you can ensure that as much as possible go for a secure operating system. You do not have any applications that are probably not very secure, and all your activities are secure activities. You're updating it regularly. Maybe then most probably then your computer is very safe or your mobile is very safe.
Thank you, Mr. Sebastian. Actually, the earlier question was related to addiction of mobile games, how it is safe. The question was related to safety of mobile games.
Yeah, means like any addiction, it is just like even drug addiction. It is all the same. That's why I told interact more, give them more interaction to social interactions, maybe even physical games, or and expose them to some of the experts who can help in de-addiction. It is not at all safe. It is very dangerous actually.
Okay. So mobile games are very dangerous for kids to play. That's what you're saying.
No, I will not say it's dangerous. Addiction to mobile games is very dangerous.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we had a
And
question from Mr. Ravi Bhandari. He was asking about, is there any campaign you're running for the schools and colleges?
1 second, sir. I had a question about TikTok app, whether it is dangerous to children or not. So, see, anything is overuse, overdosage is that what create the problem. Some are addicted it morning from evening. They create their own video and post. Maybe in COVID time, it is the only thing that they are able to do. But the problem is only when you or your child is 24/7 onto it. So that's what you have to be careful about. Maybe you need to you need to fix up some timetable and tell them sometime for maybe interaction with you, sometime for TikTok, sometime for other things, sometime for lessons, etc. So maybe that you can ensure that everything goes in a timetable manner. Sorry, I just missed that question asked just before that. Could you please repeat once again?
Yes. So this was about, is there a campaign regarding this in schools and colleges? The question was by Mr. Ravi Bhandari.
Yeah, schools, actually, there are a lot of skill development programs. In fact, I am part of a NGO group, which is actually training. We are going to organize the first training of train the trainer teachers, like even in schools, how to organize a minimum level of security for computing, because these days, most of the time, a lot of computing is happening for the curriculum. And also like to how to identify maybe children that are in trouble and how to help them, etc. So it is happening in some of the school curriculum through NGO groups. I am not aware directly anything taken by CBSE or any school board, but I get a lot of invitation from these school groups for. I used to get it earlier for going and physically presenting sessions, which I used to go. But these days during and all those used to be some weekends, maybe on Saturdays and other holidays. But these days a lot of requests is coming for session like webinar sessions. But then I'm also working somewhere, so it puts a lot of pressure on of time available on me, and hence I'm not able to contribute so much of time onto that. But I have not seen anything coming as a part of curriculum effort from schools. While there are some basic things coming up from CBSE and ICSE, like what are the basic security to be put on computers and which is being covered, but these sort of awareness about child sexual abuse and things like that. But then I can also see some good efforts from law enforcement or maybe parent groups, etc., which are trying to call experts or organize some of the training session for the entire school, maybe twice in a year, thrice in a year, etc. I think that is the one which I can see a lot of things are picking up in these lines, basically.
Thank you, sir. There's one more interesting question. The last, I thought, from Dr. Nitya. Will not hacking take place through games? Many children generally use their parents' phones.
Yes, that is very, very vulnerable, because most of the games that children are using are unpaid. I told anything getting free, there are a lot of vulnerabilities. So when you hand over your phone to children for playing games, there is a good possibility, rather than you are giving your phones, I wish you purchase a 4,000 rupees worth of smartphone and give it to them, rather than making your phones vulnerable to attacks. Other option is buy a licensed version of the games and give it to them. Then you can do so much of settings. In the free version, so many settings are not possible. And games are also interactive these days, like they can choose partners and they can also choose opponents. So between partners, there is always an interaction on strategy, how to go and attack that and how to do things, etc. So in the process, criminals also get into that, because if it's a free version, there are somebody who is always wanting to sponsor that game, and they introduce their own people to get into the network and try and in the meantime scan for important information. Some people would have put maybe bank information, credit card information, user ID, password, photographs. Many things could be subsequently abused or misused.
Yes, sir. Super, sir.
One question came, I'm not able to see on the screen. I just I saw that. Can you see? Is there any question on the chat line?
Not anymore.
Meanwhile, a small Vinod, a small announcement that getting this speaker, the credit goes to Mr. Jabakumar. So he's the person who actually got this precious time of Mr. Sebastian for this session. Thank you very much.
Don't know, me and Jabakumar sir was together in GMR. We were sitting side by side in Bangalore office.
Right. And thanks to Sebastian for accepting our invitation.
My
And
pleasure.
he's always willing to share the knowledge. That's more important. Yeah. There are a lot of people with knowledge, they are not very much willing to share it. But he has been very much willing and coming forward every time I disturb him. Thank you, Sebastian.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Shobha madam.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Sebastian. This session has been highly informative and a wake-up call for most of us on this forum. During these times on like an internet boom and so many apps and links being flooded through different messages, SMS, WhatsApp, email, and etc., you have actually shown us the better ways to present ourselves digitally and be aware. So I kind of typically like summarize it off, be aware. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
My pleasure, sir. And thanks for giving me an opportunity to be part of Rotary presentation. Thank you so much.
I request Mr. Jayakumar to propose the vote of thanks, and Dr. Nitya Leela wants to say a few words before we close.
Yeah. Thank you, Sebastian, for accepting the invitation. It's a great, valuable session for very relevant in contemporary needs. And it's a great kind of joy to every time I listen to this, I get a kind of a new eye opener. There has been a lot of new things keeps adding, and that makes it more enriching to the participants. And I thank Dr. James and Vinny for putting this program together from Rotary, and I also thank all the Rotary officials and the Rotary district for hosting this event and making this reach out to so many people. I thank Vinny for taking it forward and making it. I think we should work on a kind of a, as it has been rightly suggested, we should work on a platform to reach out to more schools and colleges where the need is more, and we will work on it. I think with James and Vinny. Yeah, thank you everybody.
Yes.
Thank you
And
participants for being here, for organizing this.
Yeah, to Jayakumar sir's things, I conduct inclusive sessions for children of the age group from say 8 to class group of 6 to 9 and 6 to 8 and 9 to 11, and also another session for teachers and parents, separate another session. So anytime if a Rotary Club group thinks of making it or presenting it to such things, I will be available.
Sure.
Right.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
thank you so much. Now, Dr. Nitya Leela wants to say a few words.
Yeah, good evening. On behalf of Rotary Bangalore SNEHA, I would like to thank Mr. Sebastian for a very enlightening talk on the topic, which is very relevant in the current situation. It was a real eye-opening in many ways. I would like to thank also the participants who were very cooperative and attentive throughout the session. I hope all of them got benefited in some ways by this, through this program. Surely I got many inputs. It was really very interesting, and I want to thank especially Mr. Jayakumar and Dr. James for organizing the program with such a wonderful speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Vinod, there are a couple of announcements for the next webinar. Please share your slide.
Yes, the slides on. So our next webinar is tomorrow and this is happening India time 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And this is for the teachers, trainers, professors, and coaches, which says going virtual, conducting your classes and training online. This is a unique opportunity to get an introduction to the virtual classroom. So join us for Apple Ready to Play, apply tips, understand the importance of virtual training, and gain an overview of the skills necessary to get better at teaching online. This will be presented by Dr. Preet Iyer. Our next session is in association with BDU Heritage Center for Gerontology, that is Bharati Dasan University Department of Social Work, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, and Transcat People Solutions Private Limited, Bangalore. They invite you for gerontology and senior citizen care management for social workers and caregivers. So we have sessions starting from July 6th till July 10th, 2020, every day from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And you can reach out to us at contact@transcat.in and our mobile numbers. Our YouTube channel is also mentioned over here. You could click on this and reach out to the YouTube link where all the previous seminars, the webinars, sorry, are uploaded on the YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
very
so much.
And
Thank you, Vinod. On behalf of all the organizers, I thank Vinod also for a wonderful presentation.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sebastian. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jayakumar.
Bye.
Thank you.